some people might disagree. Some people might say they don't. I don't believe that. Nah, it didn't. But the truth is the truth. And if you look closely and pay attention, in certain things, you might see certain things. You feel me? Like when Christ came, you know, he basically came to some place, like he went someplace like in the ghetto. He went in the ghetto, basically. You feel me? Like he went in the ghetto. Christ went in the ghetto. You feel me? And that's where he was. You know, spreading his words and doing his works. You know, and the higher ups, like the higher up, like the big heads now in society, like the governments and the heads of this and heads of that. They heard there was this man basically in the ghetto spreading these words that he's the he's the son of God and things like that. And those people, the higher up, there was like if he's the son of God, basically, why is he around them? You know, there was like why ain't he around us? You see, that's what as human beings, that's what they would have felt if he when Christ came, if he was around them, they would accept Christ. You gotta look at it from a humanity. If Christ came and he was around them, they would accept him. But when Christ came, he came like around the outcasts. He came to the outcasts. Basically, the ghetto. He went to the ghetto. You feel me? And he was spreading his words and healing the blind, the deaf, and But if he came, if when Christ came, if he came around those big people like the government, the head of this and all those people, they would have accepted him. But because he was around the outcasts, the thieves, the murderers, or whatever, they didn't like him and they didn't believe he was the son of God. Because if if he was the son of God, God's son would have came around us. He wanna go to them, but Christ told them the reason why he came around them is because they're sick, but you are whole. They're sick, but you are whole. You feel me? They need my help. You know. So as time went on, Christ was in the ghetto, doing his work and thing like that. He picked 12 men. He recruited 12 men. Now, if you're in the ghetto, where outcast is, where the outcast is, the outcast of society and whatever. If you're in the ghetto now, you know, and you recruit 12 men, those 12 men you recruit gonna be ghetto men. There was like ghetto men. So Christ, he was walking with, like, nowadays in society, they would have been known as thugs. Like if that happened in this society, those 12 men would have been known as thugs. But back then they didn't have no name thugs or whatever, you know, whatever. You feel me? But if that was in this society now that we live in today, those 12 men would have been known as thugs or rude boys or whatever. You feel me? And the reason why he recruited these men is because regardless of those men, because those men was 12 rough, they were rough men. His disciples, God, Christ's disciples, they were rough men. I mean, they was like fishermen or whatever, but that was back in that time. Fishing was like, but those men was like 12, they was like rough men. You feel me? Those men that walked with him, they were like rough men. You feel me? And But Christ knew their hearts. Christ knew these men hearts. He know they had good hearts, regardless of what society painted them as. He knew they had good hearts, you know. So they walked with Christ. You feel me? And this is one thing that a lot of people don't. You see, a lot of people don't look at. You see, when Christ came, he was with 12 men. If you were 12 men, and people, because they had a time they wanted to capture Christ. They wanted to lock him up, but why couldn't they lock up Christ from long, like what those higher ups wanted Christ for so long, but why couldn't they capture Christ? Because those 12 men wasn't no simple men. Those 12 men were rough men. You feel me? And just like today in society, if you is a gangster or whatever, not even a gangster, if you is a man the cops want, but everywhere you go, you always are wrong. You always have 12 men with you in this society. You always have 12 men with you, but the cops want you. They, although the cops have all type of guns, they ain't gonna just walk up on you and try and arrest you, because they know you have 12 men, and these 12 men you are wrong. They ain't simple. These men rough. These men, those 12 men you hanging out are wrong and simple. So even in this society today, the cops ain't gonna run up on a man they want when they know he always around 12 armed or serious men. They're gonna wait until the right time to capture you. You feel me? But back in them time, they couldn't. Christ was walking with 12 men, and although they could arrest Christ whenever they want, they ain't gonna just walk up on Christ with 12 rough men around him. Men, especially men from in the ghetto. You feel me? Especially men from in the hood, because the places, if Christ came today, he would have been in places like the hood, the ghetto, the places where have like where the poor and the suffering is. And the same thing would have happened today. The higher ups would have been like saying, "Oh, you're not the son of God. Why you are wrong? You are in the ghetto," because they would have want him to come to Beverly Hills or whatever, or some outstanding neighborhood, or wrong this and wrong that. They wouldn't have want the son of God going in the hood. But God and Christ don't walk like that. They look after the poor and needy, the people who really need help. That's how God and Christ walk. You feel me? And so in this society today, they would have did Christ the same thing they did back in those times. Like I said, those 12 men were rough men. They couldn't just walk up on Christ and apprehended him. You feel me? They couldn't just walk up on Christ and hold him because he was around 12 rough men. You feel me? You ain't gonna just walk up on Christ. Like I say, if that happened in this society today, where we got guns and all type of, the cops ain't gonna walk up on you like that either. Because if the cops know you are around 12 serious men and you always around them, if they want you, they're gonna wait until the right time to apprehend you. They ain't gonna come with no 100 policemen and talk just to get you. They're gonna feel like, in order for no one don't get hurt, because those men is 12 serious motherfuckers, 12 serious men. You feel me? They're gonna wait until the right time to catch you. And that's the same thing what was happening back. If you look at it in that way, if you look at it in the realistic way, that's the same thing that was happening back in those times. Them men wanted Christ from long. But you see, Christ knew he had works to do. He knew he had things to do. So when it was time for him to get captured now, Christ basically, although Judas sold him out, Christ knew he would have get sold out. So Christ waited until the right time, basically, for them to capture him, because they would have never just walk up on Christ with those 12 men. You feel me? But Christ knew the time was coming where he had to finish his works, and works had to go on. You feel me? In the sense of he had to be crucified or whatever. He knew, this would have happened. You feel me? But Christ knew those disciples' heart that they was good. Somewhere along the line, Judas became greedy, became envious or whatever, and he sold Christ out. But before Judas did all that, he was a good man. Christ knew, because Christ would have never recruited Judas if he knew his heart was bad. You feel me? Christ recruited these men because he knew they had good hearts. But along the line, Judas became wicked, basically evil. And that's the same thing happened with a lot of with a lot of God's people. Even Saul in the Bible, he was a good man, but he became evil. He became envious of David, because David was basically in the spotlight now, and he became envious. But that's what happened when you let the devil take control, and Judas let the devil take control. So he sold out Christ. But if you look at it in that way, you're gonna see these things is what really happened. And they never loved Christ back in those days. So if Christ came today, they're gonna do him the same thing. Because if Christ came today, he gonna do the same thing back over. He gonna look out for the poor and needy. Basically, he gonna hang out in the ghetto. He gonna hang out where the poor be. That's where Christ gonna be chilling, in the ghetto. The place where people need help. He ain't gonna come to Beverly Hills, and he ain't gonna come to Hollywood. He gonna come to the ghetto where people needs help.